with my 365s, I send an email out. They're like my mom and my dad and my sisters and my brothers and my neighbors, but it's a small group. So many people thank me for those photos.
Of your life.
Yeah. And they're just like, me seeing you see something nice about your day reminds me to see something nice about my day. One thing about email that's really nice is I get emails back. It's not like comments on a photo. So people can write more personal things. So you just don't always know how it's going to help people. But I feel like if you're coming from a place that are just like, I just want to make your day the best it can be, then it will just help people.
Hey, welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Raymond Hatfield. And in today's episode, I chat with family documentary photographer Jenny Stein about why documenting your life matters in photography. But first, this episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast is brought to you by CloudSpot. Sell your photos through prints, products, and of course, digitals. Set up a storefront in minutes and start earning more with every single gallery you send. You can grab your free forever CloudSpot account over at deliverphotos.com and only upgrade when you are ready. Now, Jenny Stein is one of the most thought-provoking photographers who I've ever had the chance to chat with. In fact, there's a review that I remember from Jenny's Family Photographer podcast that says, just listening to Jenny feels like talking with an old friend. And I can personally say that that's exactly how I felt actually chatting with her. In this interview, we talk a lot about balancing our own conflicting emotions, such as joy and sorrow, and using them to capture authentic photos. We talk about personal connection with your subjects and how your own personal losses and experience shape your view and your perspective on the world, and how that adds depth to your images as well. So we go deep. There's a lot in this one. In fact, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a tissue close by as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get on into this interview with Jenny Stein. As always, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction. And then, no, you know what? I'm not going to give you an introduction today. I'm not. We're going to do it Jenny Stein style. I'm not going to give you an introduction. So we'll just start right here. Jenny, I'm going to take a cue from you and ask you to tell me about a photo that you've taken recently that means a lot to you.
Oh boy, you're turning that. Now I'm like, oh no. I'm doing, it's good because I'm doing a 365 project again. No surprise there, but I actually didn't finish mine last year. I got 3 months, I think, in. Still 100 pictures about, but I stopped. I have a friend that does the 365 project, and she says she never worries about one that she didn't finish because she feels like you still, like, just like I said, I was like, oh, I got 100 pictures still. In my last year's project. So anyway, so I started, one picture that's just fun. It doesn't mean a ton to, well, no, it does. It was nice. I took a picture of my daughter. I have a 16-year-old who just went to get her driver's test. Oh. And I didn't take my camera to the test with me because I didn't want to jinx it, to be honest. I felt like that's too much. But before we left, knowing that I would need a picture for my project, I took a picture of her in the car, just like sitting out in front of our house. And the expression she made, I'll send a picture for you, but it was so perfect because she's kind of smiling, kind of excited, kind of nervous, like all of it was there. It was just really great. And it was just sort of that's been a real big milestone, having her drive. And so I think that too, finding a way to capture that moment, especially the moment right before, is interesting to me more than the moment after. Like, she didn't know in that moment if she was gonna
get it or not.
If she was going to get it or not. It's so nerve-wracking. I mean, I took a driving test when I used to drive a school bus. So I had to take a CDL test in a bus after I'd been driving for a while. So even though I was a driver, so nerve-wracking to take a driving test. And so I feel like that picture I'm really happy about having. And I don't think I would have bothered with it if I wasn't doing my project, which is why I love projects so much. It just pushes you that little bit.
So how did you take that photo? Did you say, hey, look at the camera, smile for me? Or did she naturally just look up and you snap the frame?
She knew I was taking, I think I probably said, I'm going to take a picture right before we go. And so she looked out, but it wasn't exactly, it was pretty natural what she ended up doing. It was pretty much like just a little smile, a little nervous. But yeah, she knew I was taking the picture. She's looking right at me.
And ultimately she passed?
She did pass. She did just fine.
Was there an after photo of the relief?
There was. I took a picture with just my iPhone in the car, but she's holding her license. I realized I can't share that one at all because it has all of her information.
That's a good point.
But anyway, but it was fun. Yeah. And so now it sort of has affected our lives in a nice way. And that she takes her sister to school, and she took my 11-year-old to his swim team the other day. I just thought,
oh my gosh.
People kept telling me that it was nice, and all I could think of is like, it scares me to death. It's not nice to think of my kid being out driving. And now I'm like, oh, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. So when I went to get my driver's test, like we didn't have iPhones and stuff, but like I had like a Razr phone or whatever. So there was still there was like that possibility of teens like texting and driving, you know?
Yeah.
But now, like, I'm legitimately scared to be on the road because there's just so many more distractions. And I hate to, sound like, oh, these darn kids or whatever, but it's like the kids just spend more time on their phones than we did. I feel like when I was in high school, we just sang songs in the car and like that was it. And now it's like kids are, on Snapchat or updating their Instagram. Like it's scary. And I worry about my kids growing up because they're 3 and 7. But I'm hoping that we get to the point to where like Elon Musk's like version of the world like comes to fruition and there's just no more drivers, right?
Yeah,
and just everything's all automatic and we don't have to worry about it and there's no more car accidents and that's what I get excited for.
Yeah.
But it's this moment in time, like right now, this 10
I think it's
years.
I think it's better than it used to be. I think there's a lot more awareness about it for teens. I mean, I think for my daughter, I'm obviously not in the car when she's driving.
Yeah.
But I feel like just in general, there was a stage before that people weren't quite as aware about how bad texting and driving was. At least now they know.
Do you know if they do any sort of like education in school and stuff?
They don't at school. What she had to
They
do.
should.
Well, not at her school. They probably do at some schools. I remember drivers. Oh, it was awful. They just showed you these videos of these accidents and people moaning in the car. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Just make me feel like, yeah, I know. I don't want to be in an accident. I know that already.
There was one, what was it called we had to watch? I remember it because it was so cheesy.
I know. They were terrible.
Red Asphalt? Does that sound right? Red Asphalt? I was just like, what a terrible name. Like these scare tactics are... Anyway, we're not talking about photography anymore. So let's get back onto the topic of the 365 because last time we chatted, you really pushed the power of the 365, right? This idea of taking your camera with you everywhere, taking a photo every day, and just seeing what it did for your photography. And after our interview, a lot of the listeners of the show were like, why don't we do something like this? And I was like, yeah, but go for it, whatever. But it wasn't until this year that Kimberly in the group was like, no, like we're making this happen. So this year we've been doing, as a podcast community, a 365 project, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And I have you to thank for that because obviously you pushed so heavily like the powers of it. But the whole idea of this interview that we're having right now that I want to learn from you is that season 2 of your podcast, you asked the question, how do you make the world a better place with your camera, right? Like, how can you do good in the world with your camera? And I always think about the 365 project because it's how, by doing a daily photo, are you making the world a better place? And I know that you had Summer Kellogg on the show as well, who she was talking about doing the 365 project. So I want to know from you personally, how has doing a 365 project for you made your life better? How has it helped? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Well, it helps me focus, at least for that little bit, on something that I want to remember for the day. Because I'm not saying that makes it sound like all my days are terrible, but most days are such a mix, right? And we just, as humans, we focus on that negative. We have that negativity bias, right? That the end of the day, you remember, that went wrong. And, and so instead at the end of the day, it's remembering, like I already took my picture for the day today. And it was just my 2-year-old was sitting in my 14-year-old's lap, and they was super cute. And I just took a picture of their hair because one has brown hair and one has blonde hair, and the way their heads were. And I mean, I feel like just lets you focus on those things that are going right, even if it's just one little thing. And I think I've gotten a lot more the very first project that was 2010. I think that's right. That I really was focused on my photography in that one. I really wanted a good picture, and I probably would take 100 pictures a day. Now it's maybe 15 at the most. I feel like sometimes it's 5, and that's just because I'm a more competent photographer, but I also know I've gotten past wanting to impress anybody. Like, I think I wanted to, in the first one, I had this feeling like I want to show these. I wasn't doing it with a lot of people. I think there were about 5 of us that were doing it together, but we were all really into photography. And I really wanted to be like, I'm a good photographer. And it did make me a much better photographer. But it was a lot more effort the first time. So it depends on what you're focusing on. And I think it's great for focusing on photography skills as well. Like, I think it was what helped me learn how to use Lightroom, that first one. This year, I keep thinking to myself, I don't know. Here's a little thing about me. I don't use Photoshop at all. I don't know how to use it. And but I see my daughter use it. And I'm like, I could do this. Like, I just haven't done it. I feel like anything that you do just a little at a time, and that's what's so nice about a 365 is that you're just doing one photo. If you edit weddings, like how many photos do you shoot with someone else when you do weddings?
Typically no.
And I'm not going to say I made the mistake. It was super fun. I shot a wedding with my sister. I had her be a second shooter, and it was so fun and so fluid because she's my sister. So we were just passing camera. I'm like, do you have the 85? Can I use the 85? Do you have the, like, we were just, it was so easy because we know each other so well. But then I got back and I was like, oh, twice
so many photos. Yeah,
this is not anticipated. Okay, when you put yourself in a situation when you're editing, even if it's your kid's birthday and you're editing 100 pictures, it's too many.
It is.
Like, you're going to get overwhelmed, and usually you wait until the last minute where you're like, I need to edit these photos because there's a sale on books and I need to get the book laid out in a week, and so I'm going to edit these. That's what everybody, I know that's what everybody does, and then you make editing a terrible nightmare. But if you're doing a 365, you're just like, I'm just going to choose one of these pictures I took. I'm going to edit this one photo. I learned so many things about Lightroom just editing one photo. And I wouldn't edit photos like I used to either, but I learned a bunch of stuff. Yeah, you're right. I can't say enough that I like about 365, but it feels like the other thing when you talked about, it helped me shoot in all kinds of lighting situations too. Because you're just taking your camera in all these different situations and trying different things. So then when I was put in different situations, for the one I was thinking of, the particular situation was the very first time I was called to do a photo where it was a bereavement session. So the baby was still alive, but wasn't going to continue to be. And
that's rough.
It was, yeah. So it was my friend who's a midwife called me and said, this is happening. Can you come? And we had talked before about that. I might be willing to do that. But what I realized in that moment was that because I was so used to shooting in different situations because of my 365, the lighting where I was not a challenge. Like, I didn't have to think about that. And that was actually from all the practice in different situations, and not because if you're doing photos every day, you're going to have some days that you're out in the bright sun. I'm in Pittsburgh, so we're not going to have bright sun all the time. If you're in Arizona, you just have to figure out how to shoot in the bright sun. But you know what I mean? So I feel like it's done so much. It's the thing that helped me learn more than anything else.
Well, by the time this comes out, we're more than a month in.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've noticed is, obviously, when you start a 365, so many people are like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
This is so exciting. And then as time goes on, it slowly starts to drop off. And one of the, not complaints, but just the feedback that, we're getting is that it's hard. It's hard to take a photo every day, So what is it that you find hard about doing a daily photo project? As somebody who last year you said that you made it 3 months,
Yeah.
What was it that stopped you, or what happened?
Oh, it's funny. Anything can happen. This happened with the podcast that happened. Like, sometimes it'll just be like a little storm kind of throws off your routine. That's all that happened last year, is that I got through March, and then there was the girls' spring break. So I had this is actually something really to think about. Like, how much give your workflow has, or the time that you have to give to your project. So I was doing it always at the same time. I had this afternoon time when my youngest was napping, and I would edit the photos, and that's the only time I could figure to give to it because everything was so busy otherwise.
Okay.
Then my kids I went on a trip with my girls for spring break, but then the kids were on spring break, and my kids had 2 different spring breaks. 3 different. I feel like I had kids in 3 different schools last year. So all of a sudden,
a month-long spring break.
I had all this spring break time when somebody was home. Wow. And I didn't have that nap time anymore. And then, so I kind of lost my time for it. And then I just kind of stopped doing it. But I missed it. Like, I felt like by the end of the year, I was hardly picking up my camera, and I was feeling like, oh man, don't want that. It was okay in a way. I don't feel like you always need to be taking pictures, but for me, there's something when I'm at least doing a little bit that makes me, it is a way. It's like if you're a writer and you're not writing, and it just feels like you just miss it, or whatever the thing is that you do.
Yeah.
I missed it. And I felt like I'm not going to get it. I know for me, it's a great way to do it. Just say, yep, I'm going to just do it every day, and now I'm trying to be a little more flexible about when I do my photos. So you have to,
as far as when you edit them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I take them, it's whenever during the day, but I try to get one in the morning. It's hard with the kids all being in school. There's not much going on during the day. Sometimes, everybody's out of the house, but it's okay. You can always still find something, but it does get hard. That first couple of weeks is so exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everybody's there and they're commenting on each other's pictures. Everybody's so excited. That cannot last.
Right.
It's super fun. Where do people in your community, where are they sharing their photos?
In a separate Facebook group.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did people comment on each other's photos? And
yeah, for the most part, it's not everybody every day, but
right.
I would say that there's a good interaction. Definitely people are commenting. I try to make it a point to comment on everybody's.
Pictures every day?
I am. So this is how the whole thing started, is because you were talking about it and so many other photographers were talking about it. And I remember doing one a long time ago. And the reason why I stopped doing it was simply because I just tried to outdo myself every day.
Yeah.
And that was like this creative trigger that just burned me out every single day. Like I have to create a masterpiece.
It's great that you recognize that.
Well, it wasn't like until 10 years later that I recognized this, Yeah. So I had told myself, I'm just going to just take a photo every day. And I'm not going to give myself any sort of limitations. I'm not going to stick to a formula. I'm not going to stick to a theme. If there's a theme and I decide to follow it, I will do that. But every day, what I want to do is I just want to take a photo. And I wasn't even going to share these photos. They were just going to be for myself personally. And then because of the feedback of the group, it was like, no, maybe we should turn this into a group thing. And I think that it's been great because it's been holding me accountable.
Yeah.
With the other people there. Did you find the same thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you as the leader of the group are the most accountable.
No, well, it's not me, which is great. It's Kimberly who has taken over this whole thing. She started it and she's been taking it over, which has been fantastic. And I think maybe that's why I don't want to say that I don't feel resentment towards it, but now it's almost like I know that it's going to be there. This isn't any additional work. Now I'm free to just capture and then share.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I do feel that accountability. Which I like.
Big. I think if you have, even in a group, I have a group on Flickr that's I think about 40 people this year, and but that's kind of, I feel like even if you have 2 or 3 people who you're connected with that are going to notice when you don't post a photo for a week, just to check in with you and see, are you behind? Are you quitting? What are you doing? Like not with a lot of judgment, just with curiosity, just like, what's going on? I haven't seen any pictures. And you get to know people. I love one thing. Okay, so one thing to realize that it's worth sticking with it, especially if you're doing it with a group of people, is you get to know them. You can see their photo, and before you see their name, you're like, I know whose picture that is. And not because it might just because it's either the best is if it's because of their style. Like you can be like, that's their style, but you also just know, oh, that's their kid, or that's clearly in Southern California, that's where they are, those different things. So there just can be this really great thing in a group, and that's just something worth sticking with to make those connections with people.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it reminds me of a quote, which this wasn't meant to be a segue, but it's a perfect segue. Recently, again, I was listening to your interview that you had with Kristen Kalp, and there's a line that she says when she's talking about taking photos, because I believe that you asked her about taking photos of family and friends. And she's like, well, I'll take selfies with people, but I will refer them out to like a better photographer or a more competent photographer. But what she said is, I use a camera as a shortcut to the present and not as an archival tool. And to me, that really stood out to me in the context of doing a 365. So can you tell me when she said that, or hearing it again, like, what does that mean to you?
I love that. And I feel like I'm right there with her with that. Although, I'm noticing that when I write about my photos, I'm using it like a journal. Like I want to remember little details about the kid. So I've been my whole parenting career. I think it's funny to call it a career, but whatever. The whole time I've had kids, I've been bad at writing down the funny things they say. and do. But there's something about if I write just a few sentences under a picture just to remember something that maybe isn't in the picture but it's connected to the picture, then I am using it a little bit like a journal. Like my daughter was playing in an antique car at this place that is near us, and then she was pretending that she went shopping, and she's like, and told me what she got and everything. So under the photo, I wrote about that. I wrote, we went to the store, she got blueberries, she got, I just talked about all the different things that she did. So in that way, I use it like an archival tool in that. And I don't know. So the reality is for me that in some way it is a way of looking back at the year. And sometimes there are things that I'm like, I want to remember this, whether it's a milestone I can see coming up or just, so I think unlike Kristen, I think I use it both ways. So I think, but it does, as far as the shortcut to the present, I do feel like it can really help you just look at something that you might otherwise have, or just pause a little bit and look at that you might have just seen, but kind of went kind of quickly over. It helps you, your camera can help you pause in that moment and see something like I probably would not have seen. Okay, so this morning, the picture I talked about with my daughters sitting at the table, I think I would have seen it, but I would have just been like, oh, cute, and then went on. And it was nice to take a little bit longer to really look and think, oh, that's really neat. And it's neat to see an older kid with such a young sibling. I feel like there's something that the baby, she's not really a baby anymore, but we call her that, but she brings out in the older ones that I love. Just seeing that, whenever I see it, I just take a pause. My oldest daughter, she's almost 17, and she was playing last night this funny game, and they were both laughing and laughing and laughing, and it was just so fun to watch. I did take a little video of that actually because of the laughing. I wanted the sounds of them laughing.
Yeah.
So I took a little video of that. So I feel like when it's nice, I think the biggest problem is the pressure if you put too much pressure on yourself. Like you were saying, that idea
to be in the moment or to take a photo every day?
No, the kind of photo. In my mind, what happened is I was thinking of, I do this is a bad habit I have when I'm talking, is like my mind's going so fast that like I understood the connection between what I said, because I was like, oh, so when my daughter was running around and they were laughing and laughing and laughing, I wanted the sound, but also I could see that the photo, it would be really hard to get a good photo of what was going on. And so it wouldn't mean that I wouldn't do it, but then it made me think about that idea of a good photo. And if we put too much pressure, I think if people you have to decide if obviously you want to try, if you want to make your photos better, it just depends. What do you want from your project? Is it about making your photos better? For some people, that's not what it's about at all. Right. I think that they naturally will get better because if you're observant, but anyway, so as far as, I don't know where I'm going now, but I feel like it does help me be more present. And especially when I'm looking back at the photos, just a week, I got behind in posting them, even though I was taking them, even just 3 weeks into the project, I got a week behind posting them, which I think, again, once you've done a few, you can see that that's not a big deal. Here's one thing about 365s, and this is a problem that's unsolvable about them. You can't get ahead, but you can get behind.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Super easy to get behind.
That's kind of back to that whole point of like using your camera as a shortcut to the present, is that now you have to force yourself to take that breath and to think, even because you can still think ahead, right?
Oh,
you can think ahead to what could happen that day, what could be happening tomorrow. And I'm finding that I think what's hard for me is that when you start in the winter, essentially, January, it's like you don't get out much. So it's like you go a week, you go a month, and you're like, okay, I kind of struggled. But then come February, it's, okay, now I feel like I'm taking the same photos again. Like they're still inside of the house unless we go out to the store. And then like, that's really it. But still thinking ahead to like, well, what might be happening next week? What might be happening in the next few days that I can kind of plan? But you're right. You can't actually get ahead unless you cheat, right? In which case it's,
right.
I know. Well, at the time that we're recording this yesterday, I got back from Imaging USA, which was down in Nashville. And I thought to myself, because the day before I went down there, I just had a lot of work. I wanted to get caught up before I went down to Nashville I was there for 4 days. And I was like, I'm probably not going to do much work. But you know what? I'm not going to do a photo today. No, I'm sorry. I didn't consciously think to myself, I'm not going to do a photo today. But it was the end of the day, and I gave myself that permission to say, like, oh, that's okay. I didn't get one. That's okay. I was getting prepared for the next few days where I'm definitely going to have some great photos. Yeah. And while I was in it, I didn't take a single photo with my camera. All I did was take selfies with other people who, like, I admired. And yeah, it wasn't until the end that I realized, I was like, oh, wow, I pretty much just took a week off of the 365. And it wasn't until yesterday. Yeah, already in January. But it gets back to that whole routine, like being thrown off by your routine, which is so, I mean, it can get to you. It can really throw a wrench in things.
One thing I do, something I didn't mention, or I don't know if I mentioned it before, is I take a day off every week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I take 2 photos Saturday and don't take any Sunday.
So this is a conscious decision that you...
Yeah. Well, yes. Because I remember in my first one, I was thinking about realizing, it took until, this was July, I remember this, because I was at this camp. And it was, I realized I had this feeling, I'm like, oh, there's a picture every day. Like, it will be there if I show up. Like, I kind of just, it took me until July to really trust. This is my very first one, to just be like, oh, just get your camera out. It'll be fine. And then I thought of it like the story in the Old Testament about manna. So that there's every day they went out and the children of Israel could collect manna. And then I reread the story, and it said that they collected twice as much Saturday. It wasn't really Saturday, but you know what I mean? Like twice as much the day before the Sabbath. Yeah. And then on the Sabbath, they didn't collect any. But if they tried to
do that every day
extra, it would go bad. They were not allowed to do that. It would get rotten or something. So that story is when I started to do another one. I thought, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try some people take a day off. People have done all kinds of things, and you just have to see, this is just what works for me. Yeah. But I'm not super strict, because I went to a birthday party on a Sunday. I had a picture. I had 2 pictures from Saturday if I needed them. But then on Sunday, I went to a friend's, her 2-year-old was having his birthday. And there was this picture I just absolutely loved that I just took, because I wanted to take pictures for their family. So I loved it, and I used it so I'm not, the thing, people get so tied up on rules. I mean, it's your project. Everybody. Yeah. You have to create your own. It's not like the driver's test where there are strict rules.
That's a great point.
You really have to decide what works for you, and what works in January might be different in the summer. Like you have to just be, I think there's this tension with a project between flexibility and routine that's really interesting. So I feel like, but that routine for me of having a day that I consciously put my camera down every week has been really nice. And I really like it. And I sometimes see things that day that I would take a picture of, and I don't. And I like that too.
Because you choose not to? Yeah. You give yourself that free pass for the day?
I'll just look at it. Yeah.
I'll just enjoy this.
Which is good as well.
Yeah. There's so much there to really unpack. I mean, you're absolutely right. When it comes to coming up with those hard and fast rules, it's really not hard and fast. And I think that's what makes photography so hard, is that it's so subjective, and it depends so much on yourself and what it is that you feel about a photograph and how you feel and how you take images. Like, there are photographers out there who are fantastic photographers, and I look at the way that they take their images and I think to myself, I could never do, like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And then they look at me and think like, oh, I would never want to do that. But that doesn't mean that it's not right for me, and that doesn't mean that what they do isn't right for them. And it's finding that balance and not giving up right away. I'm going to edit out this clip of the of our show and post it in our group today to give people that motivation. Because so I'll say one more thing before we move on. Before we had decided on doing this 365 project, I asked in the main group who would be interested in this, and people said either yes or no. Like, a ton of people said yes, absolutely. And then I said, okay, would you rather have themes or no themes? And it was kind of evenly split. Some people said having a theme would really force me to take better photos and would challenge myself. And then other people like myself said, no, I don't want a theme. I don't want to be tied down. And then other people were like, yeah, I definitely want to do this every day. But other people were like, no, I only want to do this once a week. Like, there's no way that I can take a photo every day. And I was racking my brain on how to make this work for everybody. And ultimately, it's a free-for-all. It has to be. Yeah. Because you have to play by your own rules, and it's all personal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like, nobody else is counting your pictures, like noticing if your numbering's off. It's easy in January, but gets harder later. Where you'll feel like your numbers are like, was that the right day? And nobody else is noticing, because it is your Yeah, it's your project. And
Yeah.
to feel like there is just the tension between, if you are so loose, you'll just forget that you're doing a project, and you'll go a week without taking pictures and be like, oh, right, I was doing a project.
Because there's no weight behind it. There's no
Right.
accountability. Yeah.
But if you're too hard on yourself, you'll miss a day, and then you'll be like, I'm just not, I may
What's
as
the
well just
point?
give up.
Yeah.
What's the point? And so many people give up after a week
Yes.
of not, like, something happens. Like I did. Here I'm saying it. I mean, like after that in March last year, where I was just like, and just starting up again, but I don't know. Yeah, you need to, I didn't not start because I was super hard on myself. I think I just didn't start again,
Yeah.
But
so
I think
what are you going to do this year come March?
Well, good question. I should be thinking
You
about
got to
that.
be prepared.
I have, well, one thing is part of the spring break, part of the daughter's spring break, I'm going on a trip. So that'll be, I won't be posting when I'm on the trip, but I'll actually be taking photos for sure. Yeah, I haven't thought about it, but I think that that's good to think ahead and think to the summer, like thinking about it's good to just realize that things change. Like you're in a routine and the routine feels super solid, but it's not. And so I remember talking to someone and just saying, she said to me, she's like, seems like you need more margins in your life, like enough space for things to go wrong, And I think I'm like, yeah, I do. But I mean, it's good to think of it that way. I think the same's true about a project. Like you need to figure out how to have some space where you can. I think the thing that will work better is I'm not entirely depending on time that kids are all like, I'm totally alone to do my editing and posting. That's what I was doing. I had this feeling like I wanted to always do it when I didn't want to be on my computer when the kids were around. I wanted to just, so it's just, I have to be more flexible if I'm going to have it keep working.
Yeah. I'm facing this weird thing right now where it's like I want to, because I'll take photos throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, I'm actually editing all these photos on my iPad. I'm trying to do something that is different so that it doesn't feel like work in the way that I edit weddings, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, so it's just like that little change up really helps me, I think. But I'll take photos throughout the day, and then it's not until 8 or 9 o'clock where I will plug in the memory card to my iPad and then start editing photos. And then by that time, I'll post it on Facebook, and I think to myself, if I posted this earlier, I'd get better engagement, and I'd be doing this, and I'd be doing that, and then it'd be more impactful. Right, and then it's lost its power, I suppose. I don't know.
What's lost its power?
Because the point for me to do the 365 was simply for myself, right? Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do. So like,
you can't go into that. You can't. As soon as you started saying that, I'm like, no. You can't
exactly.
Think about when you're posting it and what. I mean, that's your podcast. It does matter for you. Yeah. But I think with your photo, it has to and realize that you're putting them up every day. Some people in my group, and sometimes this helps too, is if you end up posting yesterday's photo, like to get yourself so that you edit your photo, but then you post it the next day. And that can be helpful. I've known people in my group that do it that way.
There are a few people who do it that way.
And there's the other thing I want to say when you're saying that free for all, because that's true in my group, the group I have on Flickr too, where some people are doing weekly photos. People do all kinds of different things, and it just doesn't matter. You just have to. I do like it in my group. I like it if people number their photos just so. I don't care which number they're on. I like to know, like, if they put this is number 11 of 366 or is this 3 of 52, like, because they're different projects. So it's nice to know what they're doing. And that's kind of I enjoy it when people say that, because I'm like, okay, now I know that they're doing a 365 project or 366 this year. Yeah. And I know people keep saying it's really 366.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But one extra day. It doesn't matter. I know. Yep.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. But we've been talking about this far longer than I had anticipated. Okay. What I really wanted to talk to you about is because you've been on the show before and you've shared a bunch, and we always have a great conversation. But I think on your podcast, the Family Photographer Podcast, season 2 was 11 of my favorite podcast episodes I had ever heard of any podcast. Oh. And I think that it's because you went at it with a specific mindset of how do you make the world a better place with your camera? What are you doing to leave this planet better when you leave, but before whatever the sentiment, like better than how you found it. You know what I mean? And one thing that I found, which was really interesting, is that every single one of your episodes dealt with. I just read this book called The Question Behind the Question. Have you heard of it?
No, but it sounds great.
So it's all
As
about
someone who
like,
loves asking questions, I'm like, oh, tell me more.
I don't think that it really helps in terms of like podcasting. It's all about like personal accountability.
Hmm.
But a lot of the examples were like if you are in a job, it's very easy to think like, well, why won't marketing do this? Why don't we have enough people to help us on this team? Why? And it's not taking that personal accountability, you know?
Okay.
But then there's always a question behind that question, which is like, what can I do to help out this situation? And figuring out how you can be helpful as a human. So, not that any of that applies to to season 2, but the question behind the question of how can you make the world a better place, I found was just the overall theme of dealing with the difficult.
Hmm.
It seemed like everybody who you talked to didn't start doing something with their camera for good until they were put in some sort of difficult situation.
Hmm.
And this I found extremely interesting, extremely interesting. And in fact, you yourself had a little quote. I wrote this down because it really made a big impact on me. I don't remember exactly who it was that you were talking to because for some reason I didn't write it down. But you were talking about when I believe your grandmother passed away. And you said, when somebody dies, it is such a unique group of people who gather together that you have to capture that.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened unless something difficult happened. So
Right. Yep.
now there's a lot of questions that I have about dealing with the difficult,
Okay.
but now that I've brought that up, the dealing
Yeah.
with the difficult, what does that mean to you in terms of your photography?
Oh, wow.
That was a long question. I
It
apologize
was,
for that.
no, don't apologize at all. It was great. Well, I remember talking, I think it was Summer Kellogg I was talking about when we ended up being like, yeah, photography is about loss, isn't it? Not always, but often that there's a lot. My friend just sent me a picture. Just she was going through photos when her daughter turned 11 and it was a birthday. So they were going through an album of
Mm-hmm.
when she was pregnant and having that baby and stuff. And she was just like, really, it was neat to look back on those photos. So it's interesting, all the different kinds of loss. I mean, sometimes it's just your kid that used to look a certain way looks
Yeah.
different. It's a kind of, I had someone just contact me about making portraits for their family. And one of the reasons was that they're like, I know they're going to lose their baby teeth soon. So I want to get a picture before those baby teeth are gone because their
Wow.
face totally change, right? When they
Yeah.
get those big old adult teeth in their little faces, it's different. So
As a
there's all,
7-year-old with no 4 front teeth, I totally understand that right now.
you
It is
know,
hilarious.
it's so funny. But I mean, so I've been a little more aware and honest about like my photography started because a dear, dear friend of mine died when I was 17. And I was already into photography. I was working on the yearbook and everything. And he was somebody I spent a ton of time with and I didn't take any pictures. So this is before cell phones though. So like it's so funny when I say that now, I feel like the idea of my daughter not having pictures with her friends is ridiculous because
Right.
they take pictures together all the time. But that was not, this is 1989. So it was different. And I just didn't think to take pictures. I didn't think to take pictures of him. And I also didn't think to take, I definitely didn't think to take pictures together.
Mm-hmm.
And he died suddenly in an accident. And I was totally like, I did not have, I mean, what I wanted, partly because it was so sort of, there was this feeling like, what did I lose? And so I felt like if I had just had a photo of us laughing, which is what we always did, like one of my memory is just like laughing and laughing with this person. And I just spent time this summer with his family and I'm like, oh yeah, they laugh so much. Like that's why I had that memory. And so I remember feeling like that's the photo I wanted was of us laughing, like, cause it would give me something to hold on to, like this sort of feeling like, yeah, it was real. What I lost was real because it felt really intangible. And I was really young. So I didn't want my story about why I took pictures to be a sad story.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. I remember saying that to a friend. I was like, I wish I was one of those people who was like, I had my first kid and they were so beautiful. And I'm like, oh, no, a really good friend of mine died in a backpacking accident when I was 17. So I realized I better take pictures of people that I love.
Yeah.
You know, like, but that's really why I started to make sure that I had pictures of my friends with me. And it started to make me care about photos that people were together into, like that there was not just that person. And it's still something that's a passion of mine is like when a photo that you can really see a real emotion and real connection, that's still what I care about. And it goes back to that same thing.
What do you think a photograph would give you that your memory of this person, which is in a sense more real, can't give you?
It's a good question. And I remember feeling that way. We talked about that wedding
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't have pictures. And I remember being like, yeah, they didn't have pictures, but they had a real experience.
Exactly.
But I think in my case, I felt like it was really, I don't, I felt like, and I don't know if this is true. Well, it's definitely true. Okay, so I don't volunteer with Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep anymore, which is an organization that does photos specifically. It's not always stillbirth, but it's very sad. And those people, I mean, that's kind of the only time like that's a situation where you can see that like to other people, this baby that was born isn't going to be real to them because
Yes.
nobody saw it but the parents basically and the people at the hospital. And in a similar way, a friendship with someone, I think for my 17-year-old self, there was a need to be able to say to someone, I am so sad because look at what I lost. I'm going to start crying.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
it's okay.
That's really powerful.
But I feel like I didn't understand why I was so sad.
Uh-huh.
And obviously, that kind of tragedy at that age is very baffling. So there's a lot of reasons that loss was hard, but I think that what I wished for is this way of saying, he was such a good friend. This is what I lost. And you can see what a good friend he was.
Oh,
But
wow.
it felt like I was the only one that knew how close we were. And I felt like, maybe it wouldn't have. That's kind of like my imagination of what it would have done. But another story that's sad that is connected with this and photography, and this is actually something that goes back to that season of the podcast when I said my idea was like, how does photography help at that friend's house after? So they had a service for him, and then a bunch of people came back to his house. And I was in the kitchen, and there was a photo of him in the kitchen, and I was just holding it and crying. And someone took it from me and said,
"That's your hands."
She took it, and she was like, "That's not going to help." And I was like, there's part of me that feeling like, yeah, photography does help goes back to that moment of having someone tell me it's not going to.
Oh, wow. Wow. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That was an incredible explanation of a question that I didn't think was going to go as deep. And I really appreciate you opening up and sharing that.
Yeah.
I've never had a personal loss like that. I've never experienced anything like that. But as somebody who understands photography and the power, and as somebody who photographs weddings, I've seen my photos being used not that I've been to funerals, but I've seen some of my past clients post photos of loved ones who they've lost.
And the best photo they have of that person is one that you took
at the wedding. Yeah. And I think that the first time that I saw that, I wasn't ready for that because all that I remember of that person was that day and how happy they were and what it meant for them to be there for that couple. And having known nothing else of that person but that, it made me, I don't want to say it made me feel happy, but it made me feel as if I've helped in some small way to this couple. And it was only because I, quote, pressed a button on my camera. You know what I mean? And that's it, essentially. And now, because of that difficult situation that they had, they're able to maybe not put it to rest, but perhaps in some strange way have a little bit of closure.
Well, or at least I think, and not even that much, but I think that at the very least, it's just really nice to have a good picture of someone that's gone. Like, because sometimes, like, I was super happy that the picture that I had taken of my grandmother was her obituary picture because it was a really nice picture. Like, sometimes you look through obituary pictures and you're like, oh man, is that the
like in the bed or something like that. Yeah.
Or no, it's just sort of like clearly like just this, they tried to find anything they could. It's nice when there's a good picture. And I think that if anyone does photos for any length of time that focus on people, I mean, after a while, if you're taking photos, even if it's just you're not a professional, you're taking photos of your extended family or your people in your neighborhood, you're going to be the person who has the photo that they want to use at a service when someone dies. I mean, it's just going to happen because they'll look at the photos, they'll be like, yeah, that's the best one we have. And I have definitely had that happen too. But it'd be at a service where that's where the picture that's up is.
It's powerful. It has to be powerful, especially to see it printed. But I want to bring up something that doesn't have to do with death, but still has to do with a difficult loss, which is your conversation that you had with Trin Rose Seeley.
Oh, yeah.
All about her work with dementia patients.
Yes.
And she said a quote, again, I wrote these down because these are just like really powerful things for me. And what she said is that we can't keep living like we were. And that's what's really difficult for some people. right? And
Yeah.
it's being this person who you thought maybe you would be, or remembering those days that you had where you were everything, as Bruce Springsteen would say, your glory days.
Right, right. Yeah.
Having those, and now you don't.
Mhm.
And how she uses photography to help those and bring people back to those days. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Oh, I loved that idea of a different way of using photography, like not thinking of, and because I don't know if you remember from the interview, like sometimes it wasn't even a photo from their
Like a
life.
quilt or
It could
oh,
just be
mhm.
something that just imagery jogging your memory. Sometimes
Yeah.
she'd just be like, it would be a picture of a bird, and she'd be able to then talk about experiences that they had, with whatever,
Yeah.
But then other times, just letting them go back into that time. If it was a photo, she told a story of someone who just carried a photo around and would just talk about that photo.
Mhm.
And then someone else being like, oh, he tells that story all the time. But it's like when he's telling it, he could be right there. So yeah, I love that idea of photography being so useful in different ways. And I thought the way she used it was a great example of a
Yeah.
way to use photography. And it was different than someone who's taking photographs all the time, although she is someone who takes a lot of photographs. But just to think about letting them be a doorway into something else for people.
Do you think that's hard to truly grasp the power of as somebody who takes a lot of photos? Do you think that it ever just kind of gets lost in well, this is my life. I just take photos. Like, I get it. I understand it. It becomes normal compared to somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of photos?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It's funny now because I feel like who is that doesn't have a lot of photos?
Well, I guess, no, I mean, that's a good question. That's a good
It's
question.
changed over time. I feel like because now people take photos so much,
Hmm.
even people who don't think of themselves in any capacity as a photographer, because people carry cameras around with them all the time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, it's different, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know an answer to that.
I'm trying to think now. I mean, yeah, that's a very valid point. I guess we are all taking different photos, and it really doesn't matter the medium in which we're using to capture those photos. It doesn't really matter the medium in which we're using to view those photos, because
Right.
I suppose ultimately, if you're just, I think of my mom, and my mom doesn't really take a lot of photos at all. In fact, I set up her phone to automatically back up to, like, we have this little home server thing just to make sure that she doesn't lose any photos that she has
Right.
or
Right.
whatever. And I was looking at them the other day, and it's just like a photo of a cactus that she has out in her backyard. She lives in Arizona. And it's like a photo of a quilt that she made. And she doesn't really use it in the same sense that we do, to either
Right.
in like an artistic light, but it's just to remember something. So even though she's not taking photos every single day, the photos that she does take mean a lot to her.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, I think it's interesting. Well, it's telling you it tells you a lot about somebody's attention, like what they're paying attention to,
yeah,
whatever they're taking photos of. And, but I do think there's so many different ways to use photography. And I think sometimes I use it, like I think of a parallel with writing. Like if you think about writing, everybody writes, whether it's just writing a grocery list or writing a journal entry or writing a short story. Like there's all these different levels of what you can do with writing. I mean, I had a friend, I didn't even realize, like, think about someone who's a technical writer who just, like, they say, write a manual about how to use this. And she's like, okay, we'll do.
oh
You know
my
what I mean? Like,
gosh,
it just,
I just want to pull my hair out thinking about that.
well, so, but think about that. Like, I had a friend who was a photographer. She was a fine art photographer this years ago, but her day job was photographing, like, for an ophthalmologist, like people's retinas.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so she had a job in photography, but I mean, it was like, so think about all the different ways. When I came over to where I'm recording this in my neighbor's house because that's where all my recording equipment is. And my daughter had her appendix out this summer. And as I was getting ready, I like saw the photographs from her surgery, like laying there, like there's this, like, here's her appendix. And, and so like, think about, I mean, that's a way that, like, all these different things that people are using photography for. And I think the kind of photography that we're talking about is more like someone who's writing, it's really expressive photography is, like someone who's writing about their experience in some ways, or recording it for, like, with your wedding photography, you're recording it for somebody else. But it is, even with wedding photography, what you're paying attention to says something about you. Like what you notice at a wedding
Absolutely.
is going to be what, to pause to take a photo of. So, I don't
regardless of whatever it is that the couple wants me to shoot. You know what I mean? I
right.
mean, I hate to say that in like a negative way, but I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, I'm the one taking the photos.
Yeah.
I'm the one in charge of what gets captured and what doesn't,
And
barring
also what
any.
gets thrown away.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that I struggled with a lot in the beginning. Recently, I talked with a headshot photographer, and when you think of headshots, to me at least, there's always like these micro adjustments, like chin
Right,
up
right.
just a little bit, and like head down, eyes down, just make these tiny micro adjustments.
Yeah.
And I asked the question, which is like, why do you do that? Like, is that going to make the photo like so much better? And what he said was, you don't know how that person sees themselves. And it's entirely possible just like the chin down a little bit and the eyes up a little higher doesn't make it a better photo, but to them, they like the way that they look a little bit better. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, wow. Like now I'm kind of a jerk for like insinuating, like, what are you doing?
Right, right.
And yeah, like when it comes to calling out images, I'm kind of the same way where it's like, this one's technically a better photo, but this one maybe has a better reaction in it, like in a
Yeah.
more expressive shot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, what do I do here?
Right.
And I think that over time you figure that out. You figure out that happy medium. But in the beginning, that was very hard for me. But another one of the things, again, we're talking about dealing with the difficult, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had an interview with Chris Orwig, who I amazingly got
You
to
talked to
meet.
him too, right?
I did, and I just got to meet him at Imaging, and he
Oh,
is. Have you ever had the chance to meet
no,
with Chris
no.
Orwig?
I've spoken with him a few times and I just love him.
He is one
Everybody
of the
go out and
most.
get his book.
Oh, in fact,
You're like, I have one right here.
I do. I asked him because the reason why he was there, he was kind of promoting the book. And look at this thing. It is a book.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
this
Yeah.
isn't a pamphlet. This
Yeah.
isn't something small. It is a book. It is a novel. And I'm so grateful that I was able to get it from him and he signed it for me. And he was just one of the kindest, most genuine people you'll meet. You know what I mean? Like you see
Yeah.
people online and you hope that they're as nice as they are in person as they are online. He's like 100 times nicer in person. Like he tones it down for the internet, which is great. But part of your interview I found really fascinating because he talked about falling out of love with what it is that he did. And to me, that has to be difficult. If you've essentially created your identity around what it is that you do. We all do, right?
Right.
When you ask somebody their name when you get introduced, like, "Hi, I'm Raymond." Like, "Oh, great. What do you do?" That's almost the like natural progression of questions.
Mhm.
And you have this sort of identity, and when you lose that, that's just got to be so disconnecting, I guess, from who it is that you are. Have you ever faced anything remotely similar? Has there ever been a time to where you almost resented the camera?
Ah, that's a good question. I just need a second to think because there's different things. Like what I was going to say right away was so when I think about, well, I worried a lot that if I started to do a business and get paid to do photography, it really worried me that it would ruin it for me.
A lot of people worry about that.
Yeah.
Did you find that to be true?
Somewhat.
Hmm.
But it didn't ruin it entirely. And it's actually gotten better now. But I feel like what it was it does change a lot when there's a different expectation if you're just kind of taking a photo for you or for your friends. And then if somebody's asking you for a certain kind of photo and then like, did you do it? Did you not do it?
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. There were different things I worried but I remember asking photographers that question. So it was well before I did the podcast, just photographers that I knew. One that I liked in Pittsburgh. I remember I liked her work and then I met her for some reason. And I was like, do you still like, she's like, oh, I love it even more. Like she was all excited. So different people go different ways about it. I think I'm in a place now that's really good where I want to do all kinds of I did 2 weddings. So since we talked, I don't remember last time when we talked if I was paying, I don't think I was doing a lot with my photography business. Was I? I can't remember.
I don't think that we touched on that too
We
much.
maybe didn't talk about it, but because now because my youngest is a little older, I'm like, okay, I'm going to really start devoting time to this.
Yes.
And then I thought I just love doing portraits. That's all I want to do. And then I happened to do 2 weddings this summer. And I felt like someone else was telling me, oh, she does some photography education. And she told me how much she made by doing a whole class. And I was like, oh, I'd rather shoot a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could make the same amount in just a day. Not really just a day. It's not.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? I felt like I realized doing these weddings that I liked weddings. Like they're a long day, but I love the energy and how much is going on at a wedding. And so what I'm saying with goes back to your question of like, for a while, I felt like I only want to photograph things I really like. And now I'm like, I just want to I would like to get paid. And so what can I do that I'm good at, that I get paid at? And so I'm doing more things, but I'm liking them. As far as like my personal photography, I think the idea of resenting, I did get to a point when there have been times where I've been feeling like the worst, I think if I'm going through a hard time for an extended period of time, like more than a day, say a couple bad months, and I had a period of time where I was just like, I don't want to remember this. And I don't know if I take a picture of my girl laughing at the same time I'm going through this really hard thing, like the laughing doesn't even seem true. Like that felt just like it was pretty dark. Yeah. So I feel like, but that said, I feel like taking pictures did help anyway. But sometimes it would feel like that, like I don't want to remember this, or what's true. Like if and I don't even mean true to an audience. I just mean true to like taking a photo and saying, if this is the photo of the day, and it really has been a pretty terrible day, and I'm posting a photo of my kid laughing in the snow, like what is that about? And it's still a question I have, like because how do you, like sometimes stuff is really inward, and how do you even take a picture of it anyway? Like your experience of something. And I now think more of it as like those things are happening simultaneously. Like you are having like your heart's breaking in one way, and yet your kid is still laughing out in the snow, and that's gorgeous. And so it's helped me hold them both at the same time. But there have been times that I haven't wanted to take a picture because I'm like too angry, I think, to just be like, I don't even want to remember this time, and I don't want to pretend like it was fine.
But is it about pretending that it's fine?
No, see, that's the thing. I realized it wasn't. That's the story I'd tell in my head. But then if I actually push through it and take photos, and you're going, no, those two things are happening at the same time.
I'm thinking back to your interview with Troy Colby, and the whole interview, I believe, was called The Fragility of Fatherhood.
Yeah, that's his project that he does. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And he talks a lot about not taking positive images.
Yeah.
And I believe it was you who said, like, if I saw an image of yours that was just like happy and carefree, it would feel very weird.
Yeah.
So do you think that being in a situation where, you're not feeling good, but your kids are having a great time, do you think that those are mutually exclusive?
Yeah, no, I think that, both things, like it's just happening. That's what's happening.
Okay, so then let me figure out this question. So then, do you think that it's your style of photography that doesn't want you to take a photo of something difficult, or
I think I don't know how? Well, okay, there's some things that are just like, it's hard to think, how do I take a picture of something that's not visual? Like I haven't figured out how to necessarily take a photo of the thing, those things. I was also thinking, this was to go back, we talked about Trin Rose Seeley.
Yes.
She talks in that, and I loved this, about her, something that happened in their family is that she had a brother, the middle brother in their family was sick and died. And she talked about there being pictures of during that time, like them playing. And that was neat for her to see. Oh, like, 'cause she'll just think back maybe on her childhood and think, oh, that's when Martin was dying. But she's like, and we were biking out in the yard too,
right.
And that's an example of, like your brother is sick and these other things are happening too. And so to somehow hold them both is the trick, right? And I don't think it's a trick I figured out, partly because I'm not great at photographing. I'm good at writing in a journal just for myself, and I'm not really good at photographing just for myself. And that actually maybe is what I'm going to learn from this interview from you. With this, like, I'm realizing, I'm like, oh wait, because it takes for me to take photo. It's one thing to take a photo, but to finish a photo and put it somewhere, I'm much better at that when I'm doing it with other people. So when I'm doing a project or there's some reason to, I'm much better at being organized and putting it somewhere. But if I'm just taking a photo, I have a folder, but I think there was like one photo in it. There was a picture I took of my daughter nursing, and it was just a little too, like, I showed it to my older daughter. I'm like, is this too, like, I can't post this. She's like, yeah, no, you can't post that. That's
yeah. No, Mom, I can't have my friends seeing this. Yeah.
She's like, no, that's not it. But I loved it. Like, it was really, so to remember that there's those photos, but that I don't have a discipline around making those photos, even though nobody I guess it's the idea of making photos that nobody's going to see, that are really just for me. I'm not really good at that. And maybe I'm thinking now, as we're talking, that if I explored that, I'd probably get to a point where there were a kind that I could share that were more about the inner experience I was having.
Mm-hmm.
But I think probably doing them that I didn't have to worry about explaining. Now, in my project that I did in 2016, I know when I was having hard days, I would take a macro photo and just post a poem with it. It's really interesting that when I look back, I can see, I'm like, oh, that was a bad day. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I did have a way of doing it then in that way, is I would kind of try to, and usually it was a photo of like a plant or something that would be just sort of, because I didn't want to take a picture of laughing kids that day. You know, I was feeling bad.
Well, then I guess the ultimate question really, because if you said that you are really good at expressing yourself through writing,
yeah,
for personal work, is do you even want to get better at taking personal photos for yourself?
Yeah, I do.
You do.
I do, because it would be nice, because I love photography so much. I think that it would be nice to be able to use it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's a way that I just really love looking. There's something I love about looking at photos. I think there's something so quick about it in a way, which is it can capture, you just look at it instead of, you have to, I don't know. I do like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
yeah.
do feel like I would like to, and also to be able to integrate it more into, if I think of my 365 or wherever I'm posting my photos and collecting them and then making them into a book, hopefully, I feel like I would like it to have that depth of acknowledging that not on the same day that this is happening, this is also happening, or that there's a mix of experience going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when Troy Colby, I mean, I loved how much he was just like, I cannot stand the idealism of idealizing parenting.
Yep.
I loved that but then I'm like, but do I? You know what I mean? I mean, I think it's so great, but I'm like, how good am I? I'd say, yeah,
Well, I think that just goes back to the whole using it as an archival tool, because it's like what makes you happy is perhaps your kids laughing, and listening to that belly laugh, you know what I mean? Because it's just so infectious. Right. And having something that you can capture will bring you back to that moment,
Yeah.
And that is, I don't think that that's making parenting seem as if it's the best thing in the world. It's just as a way that you keep that 2-year-old alive forever, no matter how old they are,
Yeah. I think it's not just with your family. I think it's really interesting that it's not, and I don't think I realized it when I had little kids, it did feel like it was all my story.
Mm-hmm.
But as they get older, you're like, it's not just my story.
Right.
Everybody has their own story going on and everyone's experiencing something different. And so it feels like, how do I just tell my part of it? And it's just a question.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So this will be my final question for you.
Okay.
Actually, I take that back. I got one more after this.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, I got 5 more after that. No,
right.
So after all of season 2, after you've spoke with so many great photographers talking about making the world a better place, ultimately through dealing with the difficult, what can you share about how to make the world a better place with our photography?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's different for everybody, is the thing. It's not just one thing. And my daughter, it's interesting. So my youngest brother is a Steadicam operator and does some film work, and he does some other stuff. And she was really excited and saying, I want to do that.
She wants to be a Steadicam operator?
Yeah.
Oh, they have the worst backs. Oh my gosh.
I know. He does have to do a lot of, yeah. I know. He does a lot to keep in anyway. So, but then she was like, well, but I really want to do something that helps people. It's interesting that she said that. So and I said, well, think about all of my brother has done work, but also just all of the ways that you see people, like you see things that you wouldn't have seen otherwise because of some really great filmmaking. So filmmaking can really help people. So that's sort of, but I think that, I mean, it depends on what you're doing with your photography. And I think also if it can help, like, how does it help you? How does it help other people? How does it help you? And just to realize that photography can be a helping tool. But I think so for me, I'm actually really surprised. And here's another thing you might not know. It might be really surprising to you how your photography helps people. I do with my 365s starting last year, and now I'm doing it again this year. I send an email out to a group I just have a list of, they're like my mom and my dad and my sisters and my brothers and my neighbors, and then people that listen to there's a different, but it's a small group of people. that I send a daily, almost daily photo out to. And so many people thank me for those photos.
Of your life.
Yeah. And they're just like, me seeing you see something nice about your day reminds me to see something nice about my day.
Wow.
Or just whatever it is. And they're all people that I know. I mean, and one thing about email that's really nice is I get emails back. It's not like comments on a photo. So people can write more personal things when they're writing back to me for me.
Right.
It's really nice.
I like that idea.
Oh, it's so good. It just kind of happened and it's great. I mean, it's nice too. You just feel connected. That's something that you miss. Like I hadn't sent an email for a week, and then I sent one out yesterday and I got like 5 or 6 emails back, like my brother just being like, great to see your photos again. Or, it's just really, really, really nice. And so you just don't always know how it's going to help people. But I feel like if you're coming from a good place and wanting to express something that's good and loving, and I don't mean good, it doesn't have to be not difficult. Do you know what I mean? But just, yes. If you're coming from a good place, like if you think about different wedding photographers, for instance, you can see the photographer who you kind of imagine is a lot about themselves and a lot about making photos that are going to be great for their portfolio. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure the bride and groom do X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like I might be making that up. I don't know if people really like that, but then
You're right on the money. Yeah.
And then there's some that are just like, I just want to make your day the best it can be. And I want you to have great photos to remember. I want you to have pictures of your family. I want you to have pictures of your guests. I just want this to be great for you. Right. So they're both doing the same thing, but they're coming from a different place. Mm-hmm. So I think if you come from a place where you're starting in a place of really caring with your camera, and you're thinking about, for whatever reason, there's some kind of caring behind it, then it will just help people.
I can't really think of a better way to end this podcast than that right there. Just trying to be helpful, trying to be kind, coming at it from the right places. Like you said, it's so important. And it really does change all of it. It really changes all of it. I gotta say publicly here that once again, season 2 of your podcast, Family Photographer Podcast, is some of my favorite listening of all time. And I have to thank you so
much. That means a lot to me.
And I have to tell you that I'm also very excited for season 3. And so my last question here is, can you give us any sort of information as far as to what's coming out in season 3? And if so, please share how we can find it.
Okay, well, it's not going to be until September. Mm-hmm. I'm actually getting a little smarter finally about planning ahead. Because with season 2, I was so I still have 2 episodes to release from season 2. Mm-hmm. So when my daughter had her appendix, talk about like things getting all like
in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's hard if you think about like space just closing in. Do you know what I mean? Like I foolishly started putting out the podcast and was going to continue putting it out through the summer. Mm-hmm. And what was I thinking? I mean, the summer's the worst time to try to do something when you have a family. So I was struggling to get it out over the summer. And then my daughter had her appendix out, and it just she was totally fine, by the way. When I say that, it's like, but we were in the hospital for 5 nights. So that's exhausting stuff. Even though she actually, on a side note, thinks back on having her appendix out, other than having an IV, and she doesn't remember the surgery. So she's just like, other than the IV and the pain of her appendix, she like thinks back on it fondly. I know, it's great.
Wow, because it was just like downtime?
Okay, 4th child of 5 gets mother to herself.
Oh, I see. There you go. That answers it right there.
I wanted her to watch TV and play on the Xbox. Because there's this one day the day after the surgery, she was so miserable. And she'll even talk to me. She'll be like, remember that day you wanted me to play on the Xbox? So I was like,
I just wanted you to be quiet. You were crying.
I just wanted her to feel like, I wanted her to seem like herself. I'm like, do you want to do this? Like that one day was bad. Anyway, so I actually still have 2 more episodes from that I've recorded that I haven't put out, that I'm making. I have to finish up and get out. And then I'm going to just get everything ready instead of when I've done the podcast, I've always been recording and putting out shows at the same time. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that.
That's difficult. That's very difficult to do.
So I'm going to record them all before I start putting things out. So I'm doing coaching with Kristen Kalb, and it actually which is fantastic. I mean, I cannot tell you how great it is. I'm working on my website, and I'll send her a page and she'll send stuff back. I mean, it's fabulous. So she talked in one of her group calls that we did with the coaching, is that she talked about starting where you at the end and working back. So I actually started, I was like, okay, so I want to do a fall season of the show because that's when things like the routine starts. It's a good time to put out shows. So if I want to, like, I kind of worked all the way back to figure out when I'd have to start doing interviews, which is soon. Just funny to think that I'll be doing, as far as the focus of the podcast, I'm not really sure. I think that it will be, as always, not focused on gear and focused on personal photography more than anything else. I mean, I feel like I love talking about gear just as much as the other person, but that's just not the major focus. And then also it's really usually what does photography mean to you? How do you use it in your life? And in some ways it's people who, whatever people do with it. But the people who I'm drawn to talk to are people who I think I see photographs that are just, I feel like they're really expressing something in their photos. And that's one of the things I love about doing the podcast is just like finding people to interview. It's so fun,
Yeah.
It's fun to think of, like, see somebody's work and be like, oh, I have a reason to contact them. I'll contact them. You know what I mean? It's really so fun. So that I love doing the interviews so much. That's sort of one thing I did when I was doing the second season is I actually wrote a checklist of how much goes into a podcast episode, getting one out.
Time-wise,
and also just a list number-wise. And I realized that I wasn't very realistic. Like, I thought to myself, you schedule an interview, record an interview, yay.
Done.
And I'm like, oh, there are a lot more steps to having it. So that was a really good exercise for me just to realize. So season 2 was it also about the realisticness of like, how much time does this take? But I told Kristen in coaching with her at one point, she was like, what about the podcast in 2020? And I was like, yeah, no, it doesn't make money. Forget it. I'm not going to do it. Let's move on. So what are we going to do? And it was this real short thing. I talked to her, and then we were on a group call, and she's like, does anybody have any questions? Jen, you have any questions? I'm like, no, I'm good. Well, actually, no,
I'm going to be here for another hour.
I know I said I didn't want to do the podcast anymore because of this, but it really is something I love. She's like, yeah. She's like, you and podcasting go really well together. Let's work out what to do. So anyway, so I'm working on doing that. And so I'm actually really, so September, so there'll be 12 episodes in the fall.
Well, I'm excited. I cannot wait to see what it is that you produce and what you put out, because as you said, talking about gear is fun, but that doesn't really get to the heart of what it is that goes into a good or a meaningful photo. And when there's so much that goes into photography, I really think that you're having the conversations that need to be had in the world of photography that are actually important. So once again, I have to say thank you so much for your show. And thank you so much for coming on. And before I let you go, do you want to share where everybody can find you online?
Sure. The podcast you can find at thefamilyphotographer.net. And then you can find it on iTunes and other places like that. I'm not sure. I don't think it's not in Spotify. For some reason, I couldn't get it there, but I didn't, whatever. So anyway, you can find it on iTunes and other places that you find podcasts. And then on Instagram, which I don't post super often, but there's information about the podcast there. And that's Jenny, Jenny, 2_ Stein, Stein. And then there's a page on Facebook for it. And like that.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Start a conversation. Grow together. That is it for this week. Remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.